Yo, it's the Latino Newsletter podcast, a show about us all the time. I'm your host, Julio Ricardo Varela, and a special thanks to the generous support from the Latino Community Foundation for season 1 of this podcast. You can learn more about the Latino Community Foundation at latinocf.org. We got a dozen. This is episode 12, 12. And today we have an amazing guest who I've known for years, who has a new series that I can't wait to learn more about. This is like Latino royalty on the show. Gustavo Arellano is a columnist for the Los Angeles Times. Covers Southern California, a bunch of the West, other things and beyond. He previously worked at OC Weekly, where he was an investigative reporter for 15 years and an editor for 6. He wrote a column called Ask a Mexican. Remember that? Ask a Mexican? That's how I became a fan, long time ago. And Gustavo is also the author of Taco USA, How Mexican Food Conquered America. He's the child of 2 Mexican immigrants, one of whom came to this country in the trunk of a Chevy. That's his official LA Times bio. Gustavo Arellano, welcome to the Latino Newsletter podcast.
What's up, man? Congrats again on just this amazing new endeavor. Although I'm always going to make fun of the title, the Latino Newsletter is like the most basic title on the planet, but it works, right?
Dude, can I tell you, that's the magic of it. That's the magic of it. It's the most basic friggin' title that no one else secured.
Yeah.
And now when you enter Latino Newsletter on Google, like, yeah, we pop up. So
oh my God, that's amazing.
It's like basic. It's like sometimes you don't have to be sexy.
You know? No, you can say that because you're always sexy.
Oh, stop. Okay. All right. Listen, I brought you on because you have a new series premiering this week. So tell me about it. I want to know all about it.
Yeah, so it's a huge series. And I'll give you the background. So in the summer, my bosses are like, hey, can you go to Latinos around the country and ask them what they think about the election and how they're going to vote? And I'm like, no.
Talk about basic. That's a basic idea.
I told them that. I'm like, no, I have no interest in this. I've been covering the Trump years now.
I feel you.
8 years. 8 years. I don't particularly care for them anymore, although, of course, I understand the importance of them. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, it's a road trip. I love road trips.
It's into a road trip. I love it.
Yeah. And it's also just like a tired trope in American journalism, but it's still a trope. It's like, all right, let's get someone to meander around looking for stories. And it's always been Gabacho, so might as well make a Mexican do it,
Hunter S. Thompson did it. Why the hell can't you?
Exactly. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, where do I want to go around the country? Do I want to go to the Latino belt in Pennsylvania like everyone else? Do I want to go to the swing states? And I thought, no. I want to go across the American Southwest. That was the area, of course, that it is still on the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah.
Was conquered by the United States. That's where the American fear of what Latinos could do to this country was solidified. But this is also where Latinos have been part of for over 400 years, where we've been able to succeed and we've been able to prosper in spite of all the hate that Americans have thrown on ourselves. And it's also, it's primarily Mexican American, but Mexican Americans do still represent the supermajority of Latinos. And also it was an excuse for me to be able to do stories that I've always wanted to do, but I just never had the opportunity to do so because my day job, I'm a LA columnist. I'm a Southern California columnist.
Right.
I mostly focus on politics and all that stuff. So over 7 days, 3,000 miles, I ended up doing 9 columns.
Wow.
So the series is huge. We're talking about nine chapters, I think 15,000 words.
Wow.
The series, last I checked, it was called Caminos del Southwest because I was, hay tantos caminos that Latinos can go on. And so what I did was go talk to Latinos, check in on them, but not on politics. I just wanted to check. I treated every segment as its own story because it was worthy of its own story. And if politics came up, then we talked about that. But it wasn't always presidential. It was a lot of times about what people were dealing with right in front of them. And that's one of the big themes that I found. But, I guess you'll ask me next, okay, Gustavo, where did you go?
Wait, do you want to just do a one-man podcast show? Because that was literally my next question. Okay, Gustavo, where did you go of all the trips you took? Tell me which one was the most memorable when you explain all this. And then tell me which one was it was all right.
They were all memorable.
Okay,
all of them.
Okay, just making sure. Because I think 7 days, 3,000 miles, I would think by day 4, you're like, anda pa'l carajo. No, but you were into it. All right.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Right, cool.
Well,
right.
Trust me, I had that moment, too. So I started where you have to start, right on the U.S. and Mexico border, right where it starts. So it's basic. We couldn't go in, but it's called Friendship Park. So it was the binational park that has been shut down by the Border Patrol for the past 5 years for reasons they don't want to say. So we're able to go on a bluff, myself and an activist who works with the American Friends Service Committee, which has a tent right on the border wall to help out migrants. And I was able to see what the Biden administration is doing, which is building yet another 30-foot tall fence. And not only that, building a bluff so we could run flush with what the Trump administration did. And this so-called invasion that Trump and Vance and all these, even the Harris administration is saying we clamped down. Well, yeah, they did clamp down because I saw not a single migrant trying to come in.
Okay.
From there, I go to Clifton, Arizona, copper country. My grandmother was born in a mining town that no longer exists called Metcalf. So I met with a young Latina council member there, Janine Carrillo, who she works for the mine there. It's one of the largest copper mines in the world, but she's trying to plan Clifton. She's trying to prepare Clifton for a future without a mine. So she's trying to bring more business. We're talking about a tiny town.
Yeah.
About 5,000 people, if that, but it's on its comeback. From there, I go to El Paso. I had to pay my respect to the victims of the Walmart massacre from 5 years ago, where, remember, the person who committed the massacre, he was talking about a Hispanic invasion, the Hispanic voting bloc destroying Texas. Now we have Trump and Vance saying their babadas about, making up straight up lies about migrants.
And the genes, about the genes that...
that's the most recent one.
That,
the genes.
that we're all, anyone from the global south has murder in their genes.
It's absolutely disgusting, and sadly, a lot of that time, rhetoric turns into massacres, and that's what we saw in El Paso. So I went to two of the 3 memorials there, big memorials for victims. From there, I go through all of New Mexico, just eating, visiting chili farmers. So
were you eating the chiles as you were going?
I wish I could, but remember, this is a road trip. I'm going fast, 3,000 miles in 7 days.
Got you.
I go to its main chili growing regions: Hatch, Escondida, which is right outside Socorro, Albuquerque, and Española. And I'm talking to farmers there about, how they're dealing with just trying to grow. And 2 interesting themes emerged from that. One was, of course, water, the lack of water. The Rio Grande is drying up. The monsoons are lessening, all because of climate change. The climate is getting hotter, which means the harvests are getting earlier. But then I thought, the other thing that really surprised me, there is a lot of resentment toward the newest generation of undocumented immigrants.
Oh, say more about that.
I was in Hatch, New Mexico. I went to a chili stand, someone that I've known for over a decade, and I asked her, what do you think of the presidential elections? And Michelle Atencio is her name. She kind of got quiet. And then she goes on this rant against Venezuelans. She said that Venezuelans are coming in. They don't want to work. The government is giving them all of these benefits. And I thought to myself, oh, my God, you're sounding like my Mexican-American cousins back in Southern California. And it made me sad. And then I heard the exact same thing in Albuquerque, another guy that I've known forever, saying, he had a funny line, though. He's like, the immigrants of today, they're starting to act like Americans and their entitlements.
But have you not said that before? I remember in your early days when I got to know you, one of your themes was, you've made it in America as an immigrant when you start bashing immigrants that come after you.
Exactly.
Didn't you say that?
Yeah, of course I said that. And I say this to this day. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. The people that I met were saying that.
It's like an observation. You're saying like that's the American way.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And so just hearing this, that, now it's sad because now the Venezuelans are the new Salvadorans, who are the new Mexicans, who are the new Irish, who are the new Italians, all of this. And so that really struck me. From there, I go, and you want to talk about highlights or lowlights or highlights.
Now you're just taking me through, and I'm thinking about the Muppet movie. Moving right along.
You have to.
Yeah, so you're on your little journey, moving right along, and you go from New Mexico to where do you go next?
Antonito, Colorado, population
Ooh,
674. Home to the Sociedad Protección Mutua de Trabajadores Unidos, the oldest Latino civil rights group in the country, going on for 125 years.
damn,
Oh, no
damn.
one, when we think about Latino civil rights, no one
Yeah,
ever thinks about Southern Colorado. But this
right.
group, they sponsored one of the first ever successful school desegregation cases all the way back in 1914. They, at its height, it was, what was it? Like 200 chapters, thousands of members in 3 states. Now they're reduced to 7 chapters and about 200 members. But now they have a new generation that, first of all, got millions of dollars in grants to refurbish their headquarters, which is going to celebrate 100 years next year.
Yeah,
And they're trying to get new members, and they're still fighting, though. They're still fighting. They're now fighting Denver, who wants to take all of the water, the San Luis Valley. There are people who are, trying to buy land and take over. And when we talk about New Mexico and Southern Colorado, of course, we have to remember these people are, ¿cómo se dice? A people apart from the Latino experience. These are people who can trace their heritage back to the conquistadors in the 1600s. They call themselves Hispanos, or the other nickname that they really call themselves Manitos, which is short for hermanito, little brother, So this Manito
yeah.
culture, just teaches you so much. And they were so happy to see me. They're like, we've been trying to get media out here forever. No one ever wants to come down to Antonito. You're like, God, 4 hours away from Denver, 4.5 hours from Albuquerque.
Wow, that says a lot. That reveals a lot about where we are in this country, in the state of Latinidad in 2024.
I'm going to save my takeaways for the very end because we're still on the journey. So next up, Colorado Springs. I went to a mixer, the summer mixer for basically the Colorado Springs Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They call themselves El Concilio. The board president is Jess Fierro, who runs Atrevida Beer Company, one of the few Latina-owned beer companies in the country. That itself is a great story, and they have great beer. But sadly, if she and her husband Rich are known at all nationwide, it's because they were part of the Club Q massacre. Their daughter's boyfriend got killed. Rich
Right.
helped to subdue the gunman there. And immediately afterwards, he was called the hero. And he's like, no, I'm not a hero at all. And that's all people want to see them as. I've known them for years. I just wanted to visit them because I promised them when I last visited in 2019, if I'm in the area, I'm going to go visit you. And so I wanted to check in with them, not about how they're doing after the massacre, because I just think that's insensitive. And again, that reduces them to one thing when there's so much more. And what I found there is that they know that they now have a national voice, and they're using it to basically urge Latinos to become leaders, but specifically local leaders. There's so much that you could do. And they are local leaders. They're small business people. They are, they're involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And it was just great to see them. So then from there, I go, Colorado Springs to Las Vegas.
Nice.
So it's an 11-hour drive. It goes I-70 to I-15. And that's when you said, was there the moment where you're like, what the hell are you doing?
That was it.
Over 11 hours.
Drive. Because, it's still a pretty drive, but what is it? Mostly desert?
Oh God! Well, it's the Rockies, which turns into the Front Range, which turns into the Utah. I had a story, but it fell out on me on the last minute, and now I'm thinking like, why am I doing? You had your dark drive of the soul. Why am I doing this? What the hell is it with Latinos? And then I finally found my inspiration with sunflowers. So I've determined, Julio, Latinos are sunflowers. That defines us more than anything.
All right. Explain that one.
Look at sunflowers. They come in all shapes and sizes. They come from the Americas. They're so beneficial in so many different ways. Their petals, they're multi-petaled and all comes into this one center. And for Latinos, what ties us all together? It's not Spanish. It's not our politics. It's not our economics. It's not our music. It's the United States. Latinos only exist in the United States, in Puerto Rico, in the dominion of the United States.
I always say it's like we are an experiment that we're still trying to figure out. And I think when you talk about the sunflower and sort of the experiment that is Latinidad, I want to get that overall big picture 2024 take on Latinidad, but finish the trip. So
Okay,
you're in
so
Vegas. Yeah.
okay, so then I end up in Vegas. I go visit with Edgar Flores, a state senator. I first met him when he was a college student, and he invited me to an organization that he's still involved with called the Latino Youth Leadership Council. So you have dozens of these organizations that have week-long retreats for Latinx high school students across the American Southwest to teach them, teach them about their culture, get them involved. And this is like the secret fraternity and sorority of Latinidad in the American Southwest. From there, you've gotten Congress members, state senators,
Yeah, yeah.
council members, judges, all these things. So I just checked in with them to see how the Latino Youth Leadership Council is. And then finally, I ended up in San Bernardino, California. I wanted to go to Meet La Cafe, the legendary Mexican restaurant where Glenn Bell ripped off the recipe to make tacos for his Taco Bell. But it was closed that day because there's a huge bridge project that's just messing with their business. So I met with the co-owners, cousins, Stephen
Yeah.
Oquendo and Michael Montaño. We went to get smash burgers and we talked just about how things are doing and I wanted to visit them, not just because I know them, but because they're also politically opposed. Stephen's a Republican, but he's never voted for Trump and doesn't plan to in this election. Michael's independent, but leans more liberal. But they said, yeah, we have to cast our political differences aside because we're small business owners. And
Hmm.
sadly, though, all people care about now is partisan politics, presidential politics, national politics, and they never give a damn anymore about the local politics, even though it's the local politics that end up screwing you over more than what happens out in the White House.
You're more impacted by what's happening around wherever you live locally compared to national policy. I mean, I'm not trying to I'm not overgeneralizing it here, but there's more of a chance of greater impact
Yeah,
with your local issues.
and that was a big takeaway that I got from this whole series. Like, what can we take from Latinos in this 24 election, in this 24 year? Yeah, most of the people, not a single person that I talked to plans to vote for Trump, but a lot of people said they don't plan to vote for Harris either. And some people don't plan to vote at all. They're just so disgusted with national politics, but they're all proud of who they are as Latinos. And so that's the other
Yeah.
thing. So the thing that I realized is you have to take care of what's in front of you more than anything. We have to stop. Yes, we should all vote. We should definitely vote. And they do care about national politics, but they care more about what can they fix that's right in front of them. Because remember, the American Southwest, at least with the Latinos historically in the American Southwest, we've never had the best of relationships with the federal government. We've never had the best of relationship with the White House, with the state capitol. All we can do at our best is that we fight for what's local, whether it was Corky Gonzalez in Denver, whether it's Cesar Chavez with the United Farm Workers, whether it's with the DACA students of today pushing their own
In
local
Arizona.
folks to
Yeah, yeah,
push.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and with if you can better the local, that's when you move up and then you could eventually challenge the national.
That's the history of the Southwest. You're absolutely right. And especially Latino communities, Mexican American communities that were so discriminated against, and it was always the pushback. And there's so much history with that. And you did your journey. As we wrap this up, give me your big picture state of Latinidad in 2024. According to Gustavo Arellano, you're a cultural critic. You're a cultural critic. You've been doing this forever. So give me your state. And what are the biggest takeaways in terms of Latinidad in 2024?
Again, you have to handle what's in front of you more than than the national politics. And sure, people are going to be upset. Some people are going to be upset by what I say, but it's true. How have Latinos been able to survive and thrive in the American Southwest for over 400 years? Because you fight for what's right in front of you instead of fighting over, who's going to be elected. Like I had a line where, just taking the example of La Mutua, the Latino civil rights group from Southern Colorado.
Yeah.
It's like not a single one of those people, and they're all very proud and they're of their community. They're proud of their their Latinidad. They're proud of all the fights that they're still fighting for their land, but not a single one of them is going to vote for Harris. Not a single one. One person, Rogelio Briones, in his 70s, he said, "I'm not going to vote at all. Like the elections are are a farce. The two-party system is a farce." So he's coming from the left. Another gentleman, Mike Cisneros, he said, "I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, but it's not going to be Donald Trump." And then Katie Doxson, 7 generations in San Luis Valley, she's like, "Look, I know I know Democrats, or rather, I know farmers who are Democrats. I know farmers who are Republicans. All they care about is trying to bring food to the table and trying to make a life for themselves. Just because you're one party or another doesn't immediately make you an evil person. You have to eventually work together. You have to, especially when you live in rural America, you have to work together if you want to do anything. And so what I took away from that is we as Latinos, we need to care about what our neighbors do 364 days out of the year instead of just on election day. Far too often I think the big sin so many of us are committing is just caring about one election and one election about all of them instead of trying to do what you can fix quickly and immediately and best, which is what's in front of you right there.
Right, and it's the independent streak that
The
people
Rancho
tend to-
Libertarian, yeah.
Yeah, that I know you wrote about, but we'll leave you with that. It's like people tend to forget, and the data's been there for years, that our community has just been more politically independent for years because of this feeling, and your series explains that in the way that you're talking about. So plug it away as we take it home. How are people going to consume this series, and what's the best way to do it?
Follow me on social media, obviously. So Gustavo Arellano on X, Gustavo_Arellano on Instagram, although I hate Instagram, so who knows about that. Better yet, subscribe to my newsletter, GustavoArellano.org. But of course, the LA Times. It's all going to be in the LA Times.
Subscribe to the Times.
LATimes.com. Yeah. But if you don't want to subscribe to the Times, then that's why I'm saying follow me there. So at least you could read some of the stories as I tweet them out.
Yeah, but also subscribe to the Times at least.
Well, of course.
Until the series is out, people can pay for a month and a half.
I would hope so. So go to LATimes.com. Again, it's called Caminos del Southwest. There's going to be videos. There's going to be graphics. I'm sure they'll make me do an Instagram live or something like that.
And we will plug it on our basic newsletter shit that you think because of my basic name. The Latino Newsletter.
Hey, because of your basic name, you're having success like no other. So, yeah.
Gustavo Arellano, thank you so much for being on the Latino Newsletter podcast.
No, gracias for having me. And Latinos, go out and vote.
Boom. That's what Gustavo says on Twitter a lot. Boom. That was a conversation. I am so excited for Gustavo and the series that he is producing and writing about. Kudos to the LA Times editors for saying, hey, go out on the road trip. What I love about Gustavo is that he knows the history. He knows the cultural context. He's been doing this for years in a good way, right? You need cultural critics to look at our community across the span of decades, even centuries. And I'm very grateful for Gustavo Arellano, for his words, for his voice, for his wit, for his friendship. And wow, I learned a lot. I hope you did too. The Latino Newsletter is produced and edited by me, Julio Ricardo Varela, and fellow Puerto Rican Boricua Joaquin Cotler. That mixing and sound design in the show is all done by Joaquin Cotler, and the music is by Cast of Characters via Soundstripe. You can now donate to us at thelatinonewsletter.org and click on the Donate tab. Or you can just go on Spotify, click on the show, and click on Donate. Seriously. Come on, 12 episodes. This ain't free. Come on, give us a little love with some donations. And if you like what you heard, rate, review us. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you like even more. Praise us. No, seriously, it really helps us as we grow this audience, which has been growing. If you see what I've shared in the last couple of weeks, we have new listeners every day. So really, really, really grateful. And you can also subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio. We run the shows on YouTube. You can tweet us at Lat Newsletter on Twitter, or follow us on all other social media platforms at The Latino Newsletter. And you can send me an email at julio@thelatinonewsletter.org. We will be back next week. Peace out, y'all.